Happy Valentine's Day. I probably can't use that joke anymore after this. But yes, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see you all this morning. That was really wonderful work by the band. Just give another round of applause. So my sermon this morning is titled Generational Freedom or Generation of Freedom. I couldn't really decide. And the topic of my sermon is the concept of returning resurrection. And it has ties to the practice in our movement of ancestor liberation. So how do we resolve the sins of the past in the present day? That is the topic. It's not an easy topic or a lighthearted one. It's probably the most grounded topic that I've talked about since I've been here in Seattle. And it's, to resolve the woes of the world in the present time is incredibly difficult, actually. And my father, who is very passionate about the work of returning resurrection, and he has a lot to say on it himself, and he, I think, deserves much of the credit for what I'm going to say because I was raised in this understanding from his passion, both he and my mother. They really worked very hard on this concept and this understanding of returning resurrection. But as he likes to say, the concept of returning resurrection is very simple, but not very easy. And actually, it can be very complicated, but the idea itself is very straightforward, that it is our mission and our responsibility and our desire to restore all the people in the spirit world, to restore all the people in the physical world, to create the kingdom of heaven on earth and in heaven. But it becomes very bogged down by the details and very difficult when you are face to face with the real problems that you or another person is facing and how to resolve that. And I only have so much time to talk about what I think is a very big topic. So today's sermon is part of what I want to share, but I think there will be more to share in the future. But I felt called to share my heart and thoughts on the subject because of the state of the world and the precipice that our movement stands upon right now. In the present day, in our movement, we have been given great hope, guidance, and reassurance by our true parents and by our Holy Mother Han. And she has given us, among other things, she has given us new texts, new doctrine that centrally focuses on cultivating our relationship with the divine and creating God's family here on earth, a really hopeful and beautiful message. In our movement, we are slowly learning to move past the age of indemnity and suffering towards the age of realizing God's dream. So this is a wonderful time for us, and we've talked at length about how we can move past just suffering and indemnity. And yet, in the wider world, there is still so much suffering. And in the spirit world that we cannot see so readily, there is still so much suffering. Actually, from my experience, I have never seen any external indication in the world that things are getting any better. It has always been a turning point of some kind, but turning towards what? It's never been clear that the world is actually headed in a direction where it becomes more peaceful, more loving, more joyful. Now we, as people of faith, we have our faith to comfort us, and we have our community and our families to give us strength and encouragement in the face of these struggles. But in the wider world, people cannot simply leave behind their woes and their suffering and embrace God so easily, even if they may want to. And even as people of faith, faith is not enough to actually see a change in the world. Faith is a beginning step, but it doesn't resolve everything. Perhaps we could move on from our suffering, but we are enmeshed in the experience. Actually, suffering becomes part of our identity. I am a person who struggles with this issue, or I'm a person who failed in this way. It shouldn't be who we are. It is not actually how God sees us, but it becomes part of the identity that we project and the identity that we believe about ourselves. So even as we are very hopeful and even as we are trying to move on to the age of creating beautiful families and leaving behind the suffering in our own lives, if we want to make a positive impact on the world, which is really the reason why we are here as a movement, is to help change the world, help bring the world back to God, we have to know how to help people where they are. And where they are often is overcome by their suffering. We cannot just tell them to ignore it. And this is the reason why I think Holy Mother Han has really been expressing her desire for us to create these beautiful families and to share that message with people, because it's hopeful and it will bring people closer to God. But the work to actually heal the trauma of the past and to grow our characters still needs to be done by ourselves and by anyone who wants to grow their character. So the message to embrace God and to feel the love in the community, these are messages that we hope to share with people to give them hope. But we also have to be able to restore all of fallen humanity, and that includes those that reside in spirit, those that have moved on past the physical life, which is part of God's dream. This is the reason why returning resurrection is such a crucial teaching. We don't focus on it so much, I feel, but it is the backbone of what we do as a movement, is to restore. Before this, Christianity actually did not have a concept of how to liberate people from hell. Christianity has the concept of heaven and hell, and that people who are distant from God and who reject God are consigned to hell. But it has no concept of how to restore them, how to heal them, how to save them past that point. This is the teaching that our true parents brought us. And it's one of the examples of the many ways in which true parents brought together the cultures and the teachings of so many different peoples, because ancestor worship is an Eastern philosophy that really venerates and uplifts the lineage, the ancestors, but it doesn't know how to actually help them overcome the trials that they are still facing. So understanding returning resurrection is essential in our efforts to heal the fallen world, in spirit and in form. So I'm sure you all know what returning resurrection is. You've all read the divine principle. But for posterity, I will say, in my words, returning resurrection is the process by which a person who has lived their physical life to completion but remains unfulfilled in their spiritual development interacts with humans living on earth in order to complete their growth and attain perfection. I'd like to think that this sounds a lot like the way Father would word things. Actually, when I read it to myself, I was doubting whether I was the one who wrote that or not. But returning resurrection was defined in the exposition of the divine principle by Reverend Sam Young Moon. And essentially, he was teaching that there is a path to salvation for all souls, but we on earth are the ones responsible to make it happen. I have found in conversation with people outside of our movement that this idea is not very popular. This idea is not very easy to digest, because by and large, people do not want to be blamed for anything, really. People don't want to be blamed for their own mistakes, but they certainly don't want to be blamed for the mistakes of others. I have one friend in particular that I was having a conversation with, and it was interesting because he misunderstood what I was saying, and his response was, "I'm so relieved to hear that we are not the ones responsible for restoring the people in the spirit world." And when he said that, I was in the unenviable position of having to say, no, actually, it's quite very much what you don't want to hear. But I felt what he was saying, because he's not a religious person, but he is a conscientious person. And he felt already burdened by all of his own life responsibilities, choices, mistakes, and successes. And to be further burdened by all of human history, trying to fix all the mistakes that have ever been in his lineage, is overwhelming. And I really felt like, I understand, yeah, it doesn't seem fair. But the crucial distinction is that it's not about blame or laying judgment. It's not that he would be at fault for the mistakes that came before him. This is the thing that people react to, being told that you have made the mistake or you are the one at fault. But it's about responsibility. We are the ones who have inherited trials and struggles, and it is our responsibility to respond to them. And it often comes directly from our lineage. There are various ways in which the spiritual world might interact with the physical world, but by and large, the souls that are focused on us come from our direct lineage. In order to resolve a person's failings in their physical life, they have to find someone living through similar circumstances on earth and participate with that person to overcome and succeed in that experience. This is the basic formula of returning resurrection. But crucially, if that spirit cannot find a situation similar enough to their own, they will make it happen. They will create that struggle in the lives of other people so that they can overcome it and restore it, whether consciously or not. You know, as an example, if someone struggled with alcoholism in life and it had a large negative impact in their life and they could never resolve it, they could never fix the issues that led or that came from it, then they will find someone who is going through alcoholism in their life. And if there is no one that they can directly connect to, they will move the spiritual realm to make it happen. They may actually inflict that condition on someone. They may influence someone to start to develop that habit. This is why this understanding is so crucial for us, because issues arise in all of our lives all the time, and if we're not paying attention, we may have no idea where it came from. We have no concept that this is not just something that I am struggling with, but it's actually a spiritual phenomenon that is happening in the background of my life. And the very real influence of the spirit world is felt in the physical world. If we ignore the source of these issues because it is uncomfortable, then we are crippled in our efforts to really resolve them. You can very rarely resolve an issue by tackling just the external factor. You have to find the root of the problem. Not just to solve it in the present moment, but to grow beyond it and to overcome it in your life. People without a spiritual background will find these ideas hard to accept. And even people with a spiritual background will find these ideas hard to realize in the moment. I'm not a spiritually open person. I believe very strongly in spiritual reality, but sometimes it's all very intellectual for me. And to actually accept and believe it happening right now in my life and seeing how there's a spiritual influence behind the things that happen is not so easy for me, personally speaking. And again, we don't want to be blamed for the mistakes of others, so we will tend to not want to take responsibility for those issues. The divine principle highlights many areas in human history where people had to suffer through indemnity for the mistakes of their ancestors. And it is true that this could be called unfair or unjust, but it is the reality that people lived through. And the reason that I am sharing any of this is not just to talk about some doctrine, some symbolic concept, but to talk about something that really matters in our lives right now, because I will say to every member in this audience that right now you are suffering from something. There is some struggle in your life. There will always be some struggles in your life, and the origin of those struggles is important for all of us to understand. Maybe the origin of that struggle is because your ancestry is trying to work through something. There are many issues, many little issues in our lives, sometimes very serious issues as well. Maybe you, as conscientious people who have studied the divine principle, know that they come from the spirit world, but this is something that takes practice to actually actively recognize in your lives and to resolve. And in the fallen world, of course, without this understanding, people have immense struggles to overcome and very few tools to do it with. So this understanding is important for everyone. And I'm sharing this because in this era that our Holy Mother Han is guiding us towards, where we really want to focus on creating wonderful, beautiful families, leaving behind the suffering of the past. It does not mean forgetting or ignoring it or pretending like it didn't happen, but it means really resolving it. And if we are able to move on and embrace the family that we have now, the joys that we have now, that is wonderful. If the people that we love are not able to do that yet, we have to come to their level. We have to be present with them and love them and support them. That includes our family, and that includes the people that we would witness to. The people out in the world that we want to share the truth of true parents, we have to be able to resonate with them where they are. And many people are not ready to just leave behind all their suffering. They're not ready to lay down their burden by the riverside. They're still holding on to it, and they're drowning in the river. And we have to help them, but we can't do it from the bank, just shouting, "Swim!" We have to go in and help them, and it's messy, and it's difficult. I don't have a lot of direct examples this time in this sermon that I'm giving right now, but in the future, I would be inspired to actually share what does it look like to actually work through ancestor liberation, returning resurrection. Actually, I bring up ancestor liberation because most people cannot handle how much work there is to do to restore your ancestors by yourself. Recently I've been going through some emotional struggles, some growth, and my wife Unmi has been going through it with me and really supporting me. She also has her own struggles, and she brings into our blessing and our marriage her entire ancestry, which is full of struggles, because every ancestry, all of human ancestry is full of struggles. And actually, as I was thinking today, that aspect of marriage, of the blessing, is insane, that you are attaching a whole ancestry of people who are still struggling onto your life. I didn't realize that really consciously when we were blessed. But I have to be responsible for her family as much as she is responsible for mine. We have to restore our ancestors together. So I just doubled the workload. Yeah, I already wasn't doing a lot of work on mine, and now it's doubled, but at least I have twice as many people working on it, so maybe it balances out. In a way, ancestor liberation is a symbolic offering because we are, by and large, incapable of restoring all of our ancestors one by one, completely doing all the work ourselves. It's beyond our human capabilities. But through the work and the devotion of true parents and through God's grace, they've created the advent of ancestor liberation to give us the path where we can make the effort, we can make the offering, and we can restore our ancestry. It is a symbolic offering, and it is real, but there will still be unresolved issues to work through in our lives. The advent of tribal messiahship means that we, the first generations of blessed families, the first generation, the second generation, all of us who are part of this movement, are in the position of original ancestor to our lineage, in a sense. So they are depending on us. It is our responsibility. It is not our fault, it is not our judgment, but it is our responsibility. And if we don't fulfill that responsibility, then it will be our fault, and it will be our children's responsibility, because someone will have to restore what we could have but didn't. Then it is our fault. The responsibility is ours, and the healing that we need to create in the world starts in our lives. There is much to know about the nature of the spirit world and the way it interacts with us and how to liberate spirits, and there are many, many words from true parents and many teachings that can help with that. So I hope in the future I'll be able to be a part of that as well, part of the learning and teaching about the direct work of returning resurrection. But the central understanding that I want to share with you is that working on cultivating your own personal growth and gradual perfection, with the understanding of why you are going through these things, that is how you can find fulfillment. It's really about awareness and opening your mind to, and your heart, to the people around you, both in physical and in spirit, who are asking for your help. So as a bit of take-home guidance for this sermon, the message that I want everyone to reflect on is just reflection, basically, on reflecting on what experiences you are going through and not turning towards blame or towards rejecting the struggles, but returning resurrection is about going through these experiences to grow yourself and to help the spirit world. Identifying these specifics in your life is a complex issue, and resolving it is not an easy thing. But for today, my message is just to acknowledge the reality that the spirit world is depending on us to create the change, and many of you have done the work both internally and externally. I know many of you have done ancestor liberation. I know many of you have overcome enormous struggles to be where you are today. And all of that is a wonderful thing. And this is just an encouragement to not let it go and not say that's enough and not be content, because there's always more growing to do. From the moment we are born to the moment that we die, we always have more growing to do. This is not entirely related, but something my mother said the other day was, we are individuals until the day we die, and then we are a couple together. Because even as we are trying to be a couple, we have our individual struggles and our individual growth to go through. So our true mother is really counting on us to restore the world in substance. That means really going to where people are right now, where they are struggling, and being willing to help them through that. I want to leave you with these words from our Holy Mother Han. She is imploring us, she is begging us to really take this seriously. You must liberate all of your ancestors. You must also guide and educate those to whom you witness to liberate their ancestors. Only when this is done will the dark spirit world become brighter. When you advance in unity with true parents, the entire spirit world will be with you. So even as we are, celebrating the truth of true parents and celebrating all the blessings that we have in our life, the work we still have to do. We still have to restore not just others, but ourselves. We still have to work through all these difficulties in our life. But it's a very hopeful thing, actually. Awareness is the first step, and you will be surprised how much you can overcome when you know where the struggles come from. So this is kind of my introductory sermon on returning resurrection. It's something that I can be very passionate about. That's something I inherited from my parents. And it's something that's worth talking about. And perhaps in the future I will give another sermon to talk more in depth about it. But for today, I'm grateful for all of your attention. And I hope that you will reflect on whatever you're going through in your life right now. It has a purpose, it has a meaning. It's not empty suffering. It's something that you can grow from, and you can come out the other end even brighter. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a fruitful and reflective week.